Hey guys, this is Carissa. You can find me on my blog at Inky Fairy Designs as well as my YouTube channel by the same name. Today I'm going to be sharing you how I created this card using some ink blending and some amazing wow embossing powder on top. Just wanted to show you this is where I keep my embossing powders, this little storage thingy. I kind of have them flipped over so that I can see the colors. And I'm picking out this one called Sparkling Sand. It's from the Dockside Trio by Firth-Young. It is amazing. It's a glitter embossing powder. The other two colors in that trio are gorgeous, so check it out. I'm going to start by doing some ink blending on my background. I have 5 distress inks out on my desk. I've got my Picket blending brushes. The colors that I'm using are Picked Raspberry, Mustard Seed, Cracked Pistachio, Mermaid Lagoon, Wilted Violet, and then later on you're going to see me pull out a 6th color, which is Ground Espresso. So I'm just creating this kind of rainbow cloudy sky. It is so whimsical. I don't know if I've seen a rainbow cloud or rainbow clouds before. I'm sure there's some beautiful sunsets that have rainbow colors in them for sure. And I just was inspired to create a really beautiful colorful background for the fairy stamp that I wanted to use on this card. I obviously sped up this part quite a bit just to get it to fit in a video that you're not watching forever, but I thought I would put it over on my YouTube channel at Inky Fairy Designs if you want to check that out. I will slow down this process a bit more for you so you can see in more real time how I do the ink blending. The cardstock that I'm doing my ink blending on is the Sweet Sentiment coloring paper, and it has this shimmery kind of sparkle to it, which really just adds to this whimsical card that I'm creating. So I'm just switching up. I think the cloud stencil that I'm using is by My Favorite Things, and so it has different cloud shape scallops on all 4 sides. So I just flip it around so that every time I'm doing a new section of color and cloud, it's different than the one above it. So I just wipe it off with a baby wipe and then move on to the next section using a different side of that stencil. So then I realized I have a whole lot of white space at the bottom for my fairy to sit on. So that is when I decided to bring in the Ground Espresso and kind of just add maybe a little bit of ground to it so that it doesn't look like she's kind of floating in space or floating in the sky. Adding a little bit of ground with this brown color. I'm pulling back in that stencil and I'm kind of using it upside down, but it works. I kind of blend it out a little bit more and then I'll use it the same way that I use the other ones and get that blended a little bit better. So it really doesn't matter which side or which way you blend from with the stencils. You're just kind of going for that illusion of sky. Okay, so we have a distress ink background. Distress inks, as you know, are very wet. So I want to make sure that it's completely dry before I do any embossing over it. So I just sprinkle my embossing powder straight on my cardstock, sprinkle it off, and see how much sticks on there, and that tells me how dry it is. At this point, I did use my heat tool to dry it a little bit and make sure, and then once I tested it, it was good to go. Now I can do my stamping. So I have pulled out a stamp positioner and my Wow Embossing Clear Ultra Slow Drying embossing ink. I'm going to ink up that stamp really well. I love these Lavinia stamps. They have some amazing mystical, mythical creatures and very enchanted feeling, which I love. And I like that a lot of them, or most of them, are silhouettes, so you don't have to worry about coloring or anything, and they're great for embossing. So that's why I picked this stamp. This stamp pretty much inspired this entire card. So I'm going to emboss it and stamp it twice so that I get a really good impression. Unfortunately, I moved my paper a little bit. Even though it's a stamp positioner, I didn't realize that it wasn't all the way in the corner. So when I stamped it the first time and then moved it all the way into the corner, I was a little bit off. But at this point, with the ink blending that I had done in the background, I was not going to start over. So we're just going to roll with it. It's not off so much that it makes a huge difference. So I'm sprinkling that powder on the back. With the glitter, I'm trying not to flick the back too much because that really releases the glitter. And so I'm just tapping it ever so slightly to get that random powder off and make sure that it's nice and covered. I'm going to start by heating it up from the back of the card so that we can start that melting process, and then I'll bring the heat to the front of the card, and you'll see how by heating up that back a little bit, it just immediately starts to melt and set, and that really captures the glitter that is in the powder, so then it doesn't flake off anymore. You can see how it transforms as it melts across the page. It's just so beautiful, so magical. I love it. That's my favorite part about embossing. I know we all say that, right? But yeah, it's beautiful. So I love it. I'm going to go ahead and add some texture to the background. I'm using a little bit of this, I think it's called Pixie Dust by Ink on 3. I don't know. It's a liquid glitter. I added a little bit of water to it and just flicked on some of that to the background. Reacts with the distress inks beautifully and leaves a little bit of that shine behind. So at this point, I'm going to make sure that's nice and dry. I love my Wow Embossing Heat Tool because it has a dual setting. I use, whenever I'm doing embossing, I want that heat to be really nice and hot, so I use it on the second setting. Anytime I want to just like heat set my ink, or if I'm using it with my mixed media and I want to dry layers of paint before I move on, I use it on the heat setting one, and it's perfect. So I went ahead and die cut my panel into this cute little stitched oval and added my sentiment with VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. I cut out my craft panel, and I'm doing a little bit of distress with my distress tool here around the edges. I did the same thing around the oval portion of my card. Now I'm just going to adhere everything together. I'm just going to place this on my white A2 sized card base. You can see I ran that through a little bit of a texture dye as well. I'm going to bring some dimensional adhesive and place that behind my main focal panel. And that about wraps it up. I don't think I did anything else. I thought about adding sequins, but really with that beautiful rainbow cloud sky and the silhouette embossed image, it's perfect the way it is. So you can really see the dimension and texture in this trio. I love it. Be sure when you're sharing your work on social media that you tag us so we can see what you're making at Wow Embossing, and use the hashtag Wow Embossing Powder. If you are inspired and create something based on anything that I create, like this card, please tag me at Inky Fairy Designs. I love to come around and see what you guys are making and leave you some love. Thanks again, guys, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to see more inspiration like this one, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.